My little sister just got pregnant, and I'm convinced our dad had something to do with it. I remember hearing her crying and moaning at night in her room, and every time I tried to go to her, Dad would block my door. Now that I've seen the outcome, I can't help but feel horrified. Ellen was always a quiet girl, a senior in high school, never really talked to boys or went on dates. One day, she came to me holding a positive pregnancy test, crying. I didn't even think to ask about the father. I just hugged her and told her we'd be okay. When we told our parents, my mom immediately broke down in tears, but my dad went quiet, his face pale. Then he lashed out, accusing Ellen of lying. She shook her head, but that only made him angrier. He slapped the pregnancy test out of her hand and yelled at her, saying he'd taught her better than to lie. Ellen just cried and ran back to her room, and my dad turned his anger on me, accusing me of putting her up to it. Later, I tried to help Ellen, Googling abortion clinics and making a plan to drive her, even though I only had my permit. But before we could leave, Dad found out, and he exploded, screaming at us that we were grounded until Ellen confessed to lying. The moment she tried to speak, Dad hit her, actually punched her in the jaw. She fell, spitting out a bloody tooth, and I dragged her away while Dad continued yelling. I snuck downstairs later to get some frozen peas to put on her face, and she looked at me, tears in her eyes, and said, "You believe me, right?" It didn't matter if I believed her or not. Over the next few weeks, Ellen was constantly sick, throwing up everything. Mom dismissed it as the flu, and Dad kept insisting it was all part of a prank. He refused to get her any medical care, and I could only do so much with the little I knew from school research. Ellen's belly grew, but even that didn't convince our parents. Mom started restricting her food, saying she needed to watch her weight, and I had to sneak her leftovers so she wouldn't starve. As Ellen's pregnancy became more obvious, rumors spread at school. People said she'd slept with a teacher to pass her classes or didn't even know who the father was. Ellen never responded to the gossip. She just kept going. By the time she graduated, she was enormous. After school ended, we were practically prisoners at home, and when Ellen went into labor, Dad refused to call for help. He stood there, arms crossed, insisting she wasn't pregnant. That's when I snapped. I grabbed scissors and charged at him, stabbing him in the arm. I didn't kill him, but it gave me enough time to help Ellen. I barricaded us in her room and stayed by her side, holding her hand as she screamed through the contractions. Eventually, I helped deliver the baby, my niece, though she was so tiny and blue at first that I thought she was dead. Then she cried, and I handed her to my sister. Just as I was about to relax, I felt a presence behind me. I turned and saw something tall, draped in a black cloak, its head brushing the ceiling. The room darkened around it. It spoke, asking if the child was healthy. I stammered out a yes, and to my surprise, my sister smiled, recognizing the figure. She thanked him for coming, and he gently picked her up, carrying her away. Before he left, he gave me a pouch filled with gold and told me my kindness wouldn't be forgotten. After that, they both disappeared. I've never seen my sister again, but sometimes, at night, I catch a glimpse of a small child with my sister's eyes peering at me from the closet.